Tonight, prepare to enter 3 doors of darkness, where crime and obsession never sleep. From the ghost of Chicago named Richard Speck, to Mr. March, the architect of hell, and finally Eileen Wuornos, the female ghost of the night. Each story is a journey of horror, twisting the mind and exposing the story, Mr. March, the architect of hell. Among the glittering towers of Los Angeles lies a shadowed corner untouched by the city's lights. They call it the Cortez Hotel, and tonight, we step through a threshold no one should ever cross. In the midst of that halo, a gentleman appeared, James Patrick March. March, a talented businessman, but in his soul there was a demon. With his huge fortune, he built the Hotel Cortez, a masterpiece with the spirit of hell. This old elevator has carried countless souls upward, but it hasn't always brought them back down. Every grinding gear sounds like the mourning cry of those who never left this place. But behind that beauty is a maze of death where no one can escape. This old elevator has carried countless souls upward, but it hasn't always brought them back down. Every grinding gear sounds like the mourning cry of those who never left this place. If you listen closely, deep within the gold-covered walls, you can still hear the muffled screams of the damned. The Cortez keeps all sounds, as if it feeds on them. Nowhere in the hotel carries March's imprint more strongly than this room. 7th floor, room 44. The door no longer locks, but opening it means opening the gateway to a nightmare. March designed each room himself, each one a ritual of death. On the old wooden desk, the remnants of March's mind remain blueprints reeking of corruption. Every line he drew was a death carefully designed. By day, he is the perfect gentleman. By night, he is a cold-blooded butcher. Step deeper inside, and every piece of decor reveals a strange duality, half elegant, half grotesque. Just like March, a refined gentleman draped in the heart of a monster. March never killed quickly. He devoured his victims like an artist admiring his own creation. Each life was a story left unfinished, until he forced an ending upon it. But what March built was more than death. He created ritual, a blood-soaked banquet in which he played the host, and the guests were never informed. The eastern corridor, where the air grows heavy and the lights always flicker, serves as the pathway into the Cortez's darkest core. Many believe March still roams here simply to watch. That metal mask wasn't just a disguise. It was a symbol of who he truly was. Cold, sharp, and strict of all humanity. Inside this hidden chamber, only the unfortunate ever set foot. There were no cries for help here because March never allowed his victims even that much mercy. Some items left behind in the room are enough to chill the blood. Leather gloves, surgical blades, chains, everything kept disturbingly clean, as if March never stopped using them. Some nights, witnesses claim to see March standing at the hotel window, a glass of red wine in hand, staring down at the city. To him, the world outside must have looked like a grand stage, waiting to be redesigned. The only wife who knows the secret, Elizabeth, the tragic beauty. First love, then horror with no way out. March said he killed to give her a gift of love. Elizabeth is terrified, but still caught in that nightmare. Police surround the hotel Cortez hell is about to open. March calmly, pouring wine, waiting for the end to come. Time in the Cortez seems to slow down. I have built my hell. The last words of Mr. March. March once declared, "Death, to me, is just a beautiful ending. I simply complete it." His smile when saying that made people understand that his words were completely serious. He dies, but Cortez does not, because in the Hotel Cortez, death is not the end. It is only an invitation to the world that Mr. March has created, and once you enter, you will forever be part of his most cruel masterpiece. His soul is still there, wandering through the hallways, the smell of blood and perfume mixed. He welcomes new souls and invites them to stay forever. Every year, he holds a party of killers. Richard Ramirez, Gacy, Dharma, all bow to Mr. March. Nearly a century later, the Cortez still stands there cold, mysterious and full of sin. Welcome to the Cortez, where sin is born and never dies.
Thank you for watching the video. Please click subscribe to watch other interesting videos.
The story, Richard Speck, the ghost of the Chicago night. That summer night in Chicago carried an unsettling stillness, as if the city itself sensed something monstrous creeping toward its people. No one knew that a quiet neighborhood on the south side was about to become the stage of an unimaginable horror. Inside the townhouse where 8 young nurses lived together, Laughter and soft radio music drifted through the warm air. It was a rare moment of peace one they had long earned after exhausting shifts at the hospital. None of them could feel the darkness inching closer. When Richard Speck stepped into the shadows outside the townhouse, it was as if the night folded around him, his breath heavy with alcohol, his eyes empty of anything human. He moved with the cold determination of a man who had long severed himself from mercy. The first nurse who opened the door didn't scream. Fear froze her voice as she stared into the dead, glassy eyes of the intruder. He didn't need to speak. The knife in his hand told her everything she needed to know. One by one, he forced the young women into the living room. Their whispered prayers and trembling breaths filled the cramped space. For the first time, they wondered whether the city they trusted could truly save them. Speck walked among them slowly, like a butcher inspecting his livestock. He counted under his breath again and again, his voice low and eerie, as if he needed to memorize them. 7, 8, the number seemed to fuel him. When he dragged the first nurse into the bedroom, the others sat frozen in terror. They clung to each other, listening to the muffled cries through the wall, knowing their turn would come. Time twisted itself into an endless nightmare. Speck returned with the same casual steps, wiping sweat from his forehead. His expression never changed. No rage, no thrill, just the numbing emptiness of a man who saw people as objects. He took another nurse, then another. As the hours passed, the townhouse transformed into a house of suffering. The warm yellow lights flickered as if they, too, recoiled from the brutality unfolding beneath them. Outside, life went on unaware. Cars, footsteps, distant laughter while the nurses faced their dying minutes. But in the midst of that terror, one young woman, Corazon Amuro, stayed hidden under a bunk bed, forcing herself not to breathe, not to tremble. She knew that even the smallest movement could reveal her. Her only ally was silence. Speck's rage grew as he continued his ritual of violence. Each return to the living room carried the echo of the last. Blood on his hands, sweat on his brow, the sick rhythm of his footsteps. Corazon heard it all from the shadows. When he finished the last of his victims, Speck stood in the center of the room, breathing heavily. It was the first time he realized he had lost count. He muttered to himself, confused, but not enough to keep searching. He believed his work complete. The door slammed behind him. Only then did Corazon dare to open her eyes. The silence was unbearable, horrifying in its stillness. She crawled out of hiding, her body shaking uncontrollably, staring at the devastation left behind. Her escape down the stairs felt endless. Each step echoed like a countdown. She didn't scream, didn't look back. She ran to the nearest window of a neighbor's home and banged with all her remaining strength until someone came. But he didn't know. There was one person still alive, a young, petite nurse, hiding under the narrow bed. She didn't dare to breathe loudly, didn't dare to move, as if she wanted to disappear from this world. When morning came, Speck disappeared. She crawled out from under the bed and ran outside for help. Police arrived. 6 bodies in the living room, 2 in the bedroom. The scene was like a pool of blood. The atmosphere was mournful. The whole of America was shocked. An unprecedented massacre. The news was reported by major newspapers as massacre of 8 nurses in Chicago. Only one clue. That the 2 born to raise hell on the killer's arm. 3 days later, Speck was arrested at a cheap motel. He tried to commit suicide, but did not die. The trial took place. Speck was cold, unrepentant. "I don't remember anything," he said. 49 minutes of deliberation. Verdict: death penalty. But the death sentence was overturned. Speck lives in prison. He lived like a real devil. Drugs, violence, and even sex surgery in prison. On December 5, 1991, Richard Speck died of a heart attack. No one came to claim the body. 8 angels have passed away, but their story will forever remind the world that the devil sometimes takes human form.
Thank you for watching the video. Please click subscribe to watch other interesting videos.
Story: Aileen Wuornos, The Destiny of the Night. In the city of Los Angeles, where shadows stretch longer than the light, stands a hotel whispered about only in the darkest corners. Hotel Morbides. Anyone who steps inside feels death breathing softly at the back of their neck. And tonight, the place is preparing to welcome a soul that has never known. The hallway of Morbides stretches endlessly, the lights flickering like a dying heartbeat. Room 64, the room that should never be opened, stands ajar. Some say it's a doorway reserved for the sinful. where time and guilt melt together into a bottomless pit. As the pale green glow spills from inside, the mirror on the wall trembles as if exhaling, and through the thin veil of mist, a woman's face emerges, eyes wide, holding a lifetime of terror. It is Eileen Warnos, the one newspapers called the Highway Monster. Her voice echoes from somewhere far away, fractured and sharp. I didn't choose this road. It chose me. Every word she speaks pierces the air like a needle, thickening the room with a suffocating weight. Because before she became the terror of Florida's highways, Eileen was just a child thrown to the wolves. She grew up between moldy walls, echoing curses, and hands always ready to strike. No one remembers how a child who cried so much managed to stay alive. Then one day, at 12 years old, Eileen ran from the house that was never hers. In the deep woods, she thought she had escaped, but night is the cruelest predator. Footsteps chased her, flashlights flickered through the trees, and her cries dissolved into the forest like they never existed. The years that followed turned the highway into her only home. Eileen stood by the roadside, waving down cars through endless nights. The Florida night wind was icy, carrying with it the constant feeling that someone was always standing behind her, watching without breathing. Then the fateful car stopped. Inside was a man smiling too stiffly to wrong. That short ride carried her entire life, pushing it down a road she could never return from. And then gunfire split the air. Blood splattered across the car window, across her hands, across her soul. From that moment on, fear became something else, a drowning desperation pulling her deeper into the dark. The first death led to others. Every time Eileen sat in the back seat of a stranger's car, her hands trembled, not knowing if it was fear or instinct that the man beside her would do something horrible, like so many before him. After that, 6 more men were shot dead on the side of the road. And sometimes, in the mirror, she saw herself, but not Eileen, something else. A darker version of her, smiling crookedly, eyes hollow like to bottomless pits. Only one person ever made her feel human again. Tyra. Their love was the single fragile beauty in a life made of broken edges. Eileen believed she finally had somewhere to belong. But love can betray. Tyra, terrified and desperate, was pulled into the hands of the police, forced to confess, to protect the only person she cared for. Eileen stepped willingly into the trap. In court, they called her a monster, a cold-blooded killer. No one asked why she became that way. No one spoke of the nights she cried alone in the woods, or the pain the world ignored. Her final words before the death sentence echoed like a bitter laugh, half defiance, half despair. I'll be back, as a ghost, as a storm. In the execution chamber, bright white light flooded her face. In her final seconds, Eileen closed her eyes, but some say when the doctor touched her hand, her body jerked violently, less like fear and more like awakening. As her last breath left her lips, the room grew suddenly cold. A nurse fled, claiming she saw Eileen's shadow standing in the corner, watching with eyes no longer human. Then, on Halloween night, Hotel Morbides received a new guest. No one saw her enter, but the lobby mirrors began to crack, splitting like something had tapped gently from the other side. Eileen had returned just as she promised. That night, Morbides hosted its usual banquet for the wicked. Shadows of infamous killers sat around a long table, glasses filled with wine as red as blood. Eileen walked in, hair tangled, eyes heavy with darkness, and dozens of spirits turned to greet one of their own. During the feast, she laughed dryly as whispers rose around her, telling her she belonged nowhere except here, where unspoken sins burn forever like a flame that refuses to die. Once, a traveler stayed at Morbides, unaware of its history. That night, they looked in the mirror and saw a woman behind them, hair dripping, eyes vacant. When they turned around, no one was there, yet the mirror remained fogged with her breath. Once, a traveler stayed at Morbides, unaware of its history. That night, they looked in the mirror and saw a woman behind them, hair dripping, eyes vacant. When they turned around, no one was there, yet the mirror remained fogged with her breath. The sin is not murder, but letting the world make you a monster. Eileen's confession. Rumor has it, if you stand before the mirror of room 64 and call her name 3 times, you'll hear footsteps approaching, slowly, deliberately. as if she's been waiting for you for a very long time. And when the mirror shatters into 100 fragments, each shard reflects a different version of Aileen Wilde, empty, agonized. In the end, one must wonder, was Aileen a killer, or merely a child abandoned by a world that refused to see her pain?
Thank you for watching the video. Please click subscribe to watch other interesting videos.